Good morning, good morning, good morning. Again, a new scenery, right? You would think I'm always going to be in the same place, but I'm not. I move. I like moving. When I'm not moving, I'm not happy. So I like moving. All right. Anyway, let's get right to it. I'm actually quite pleased with our email today. I'm always pleased with our emails, right? But that's a little bit biased. But the email today, like all Wednesday articles, and I really do enjoy knowing Wednesdays are articles because I do spend the entire previous day researching it. I do wake up at 4 in the morning to start crafting it. And what one might not be familiar with is to write something that concise. It starts off as like 10 pages, and not this one. This one was like 6 pages. But the whole goal is to, okay, how can I take that first draft of 6 pages and create something that is digestible, easily able to be read, and easily able to be understood? Because it's no trophy in, oh, I wrote a 1,000-word essay. Because the time that it takes for the person, the recipient, to read it fades as time goes on, right? So the percentage of people that will read your email are directly congruent with the interest of it and the length of it, because you could be the most interested person in the world. If I send you an email of like 1,000 pages, you're never going to read it. You could be the least interested person in the world, but if I send you an email of 2 sentences, you will read it, because how can you not, right? So that's just the way it goes. And my obligation to RHINO is that not only do I have to speak to everyone in RHINO, but I have to always be willing to speak to those that don't know RHINO. You know, every one of those emails, especially the articles, and I do Wednesday articles because on our RHINO retirement site, we have a RHINO research portion where someone, if they did not know who we were, they could research RHINO pretty easily. That's where those articles go. So if you were new to RHINO and you went to go research it, you could read, oh, these are the articles. So they're always made with the thought in mind that if someone was just visiting us for the first time, would they get a good feel? Would they understand it? But at the same time, you don't go ahead and sacrifice everyone that brought you to where you are. So I would never go ahead and craft something that was so understood, or so, all right, Aunt, we knew that last year, under the guise or under the pretext that, hey, listen, it's very important that we get new people, therefore, you just got to sacrifice, because that message would actually resonate. I do think a large percentage would say, okay, I understand the goal, I understand we need to get to where we're going, and I understand I need to make this sacrifice for us to get there, and the sacrifice is, the content's not really being all that valuable to me, but it's certainly valuable to the next person. I believe that's asking someone to make a sacrifice that their heart says yes, but their brain will eventually say no. And I think as the steward of RHINO, it's unfair for me to ever think of doing that as a solution, even though it might be a short-term solution. It's almost like asking your wife to live in the house next to your girlfriend because she's the mother of your kids, right? Well, conceivably your ex-girlfriend. Your wife might say, yeah, I get it, it's your kids. That's the mother, she wants to be near it. But when she sees you sharing conversation across the fence and those all too familiar smiles happen, she's going to very quickly think it was a bad idea, and she's going to resent you for ever putting her in that position. So in a weird way, I always relate everything to relationships, because I think everything is a relationship, and whether it's a boy chasing a girl or whether it's, a dad and a son or whatever, you do need to respect how the other person not only feels in the moment, but if you want to be trusted to be steward of where to lead them, you need to certainly prove that by following you, they're not going to run into all these landmines like, oh God, I get it's unfair for me to think you could have seen it, but then it's unfair for me to follow you, because if you can't see around the curve, around the bend, around the corner, then why should I trust following you? So that's always been in the DNA of RHINO, And nature nurture, right? Like I was the oldest of 6 boys in a horribly divorced household and had to be mom and dad. That's not very popular when you're telling, teenage boys, hey, listen, you can't party, you got to go to school, because they think, hey, you're not my mother, you're not my father. But later in life, when they're educated and have good jobs, they look back and say, thank you for not letting me do drugs all day, right? Like that was a good decision. I'm sorry that I hated you for it. So I really have thick skin. I don't know if the sentence makes sense. I care what you think, but I don't. And I don't mean that in a bad way. If somebody says, Anthony, I think this idea is a really poor one, well, we'll have the conversation. But if I know all of your reasons and you know all of mine, well, then I'm going to go with what I believe. And it's not because I think I'm better than anyone. I don't, but I naturally believe that my vision is the best vision. And again, I also know that is completely false. So I'm always on the lookout of how to better improve it. But the point being, for anyone to get to creating something new, they're always going to be littered with, hey, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Hey, you're doing something different than it's ever been done. You're going to fail. And by all accounts, that's true. If you're looking to reinvent the wheel or you're looking to do something differently than the way it's always been done, you're walking into something with like a 99% failure rate, because if everyone could do something that's different than it's always been done, it would happen every day, and the sentence, like it's always been done, wouldn't exist. So the sentence, as it's always been done, is exact proof why doing something differently has a high failure rate. So good advice is advice that says, Anthony, you have a high likelihood of failing. And if you don't like failure, you should just go back to doing it the way things have been done. Point being, if I cared how everyone's advice was to me, completely agnostic and completely beside the point that they're giving good advice, I have to not care what their advice is. So I have to not care at advice that's even good, because that's the only way you can create where you're going. So when I say I care what everyone thinks, I do, because it is in the collaboration of what everyone thinks that's constantly growing RHINO. Anyone that's been around for a year, 2 years, 3 years remembers, Anthony, do you remember RHINO Traffic? Do you remember RHINO Digital? Do you remember RHINO Premier? Do you remember RHINO Concierge? Do you remember all the different things we've done? And they've only adjusted, they've only evolved because everyone always contributed. So it stands fair to reason. And in fact, RHINO Street, do you remember even as early as 5 months ago, RHINO Street was the be-all and end-all. It was our front-facing product. It was the platform that was going to revolutionize the world. And none of that's changed. It still is, except it's not our front-facing platform anymore. In fact, if we were so egotistical to believe that we're always right, we'd still be sitting here pounding the desk on RHINO Street. But our market, our people have made it very clear that, Anthony, and not these words, RHINO Street's not sexy. Yes, we want to change the world, but we're not going to sacrifice every single day by using a search engine that's not populated on the belief that it might be populated one day, and when that day comes, we would have changed the world and would have received nothing accordingly except, the self-knowledge that we were a part of building that. It's not very sexy. I'll admit that's a not very sexy thing. But it is our crown jewel. It is the most valuable portion of RHINO. So how does that happen? Well, we needed to pivot and create a front-facing product that was sexy, something that did make sense to people on an absolute immediate gratification basis, where they can see progress every day, they can see where they're going, they could bring others in, and everything had its own daily reward, right? Oh, the coin's $1, it's $1.03, it's $1.12, I own the coin, I can do those calculations. See, it never matters the destination. What matters is the journey, which is the dream, but it matters the direction, which is what allows someone to continue. And as long as we continue going in the right direction, people will continue being a part of it. RHINO Street did not allow that because it did not have any immediate gratification, didn't have any bells, it didn't have any rewards, it didn't have any checkpoints. But what I can tell you is when RHINO Bucks gets to where it needs to go and the whole world is quite happy with, or at least the whole RHINO world is quite happy being millionaires many times over, quite happy knowing that everyone they brought into it is thanking them, quite happy knowing that it never ends, because the premise of Rhino Bucks is that when people invest in themselves and people are infinite, because people are infinite until the world blows up, and at that point it doesn't matter, so you could always assume people to be infinite, which means you could always assume that they have an infinite ability to invest, which means you could always assume that if there was a people stock, then it would have an infinite price, which means you could get into it at any price and it will always go up. Now that's something, wow, if we could actually invent that, if we can create that, then can we share the message with everyone? Rhino Street is exactly that. Google is amazing. It's one of the best, it is the best search engine. And if you want to go ahead and search something on a global basis and you want to be faced with ads and you want to find the best thing on a corporate level, use it. But if you want to go ahead and search your community first, if you want to go ahead and support your Main Street and your small businesses in an unadulterated way where your data is safe, no one's there to touch it, there is no data retention, then what we suggest is Rhino. So use Google for global, Rhino for local. In that sentence, they're completely designed to be antithesis of each other. They're opposites, which means there's a decision. And in any type of decision, the value of one should equal the value of the other if it's a 50-50 decision. So we'll get more into the math of Rhino Street, but I think that's a good value proposition to migrate our community into. I think our community would all appreciate that. And the fact that they already received the immediate gratification to keep it going, that's where Rhino Street comes in, because Rhino Street will be the asset that backs Rhino Bucks. And if Rhino Street is a 50-50 option to Google, and Google is worth 1.5 trillion, then Rhino Bucks could be worth 750 billion as the backing for Rhino Coin. Well, Rhino Coin, remember what was Rhino Coin? Rhino Bucks, which means at $1 billion coin, $750 a coin then becomes the fair value of something we know in the future, but we know it now because we're building it today. So I absolutely love everyone. I'm 2 minutes over, and I saw it when I was going over. Let me just take a look at the chat real quick. Hey, Anthony, visually beautiful. The journey reminds me of something new. Oh my God, it's amazing, Robert. Well said, Robert. Yeah, duh. And it's funny because I have it to minimize, so I can only see one at a time. So I'm like, yeah, well said, Robert. And then you see, well said, Robert. Claps. So let me keep it at 2 minutes over before that clock hits 10:13. I love everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. And the email tomorrow is going to be total wallet step by step. We need to go ahead and push forward. And for anyone, and not that I think, no one said this to me, but there is, again, the answer to all questions is money. So if I was on the other end and I was fairly new, I would say, why don't we have wallet just yet? Why haven't we got coin yet? Well, if we're just buying and we're not able to sell, I knew there was something too good about Anthony. But let me debunk that right now. On our DEX scan, the coin market cap, it needs credibility. So for instance, if you see a coin that has like $10 worth of daily volume and is only in 2 wallets, it doesn't matter the price, right? Like 2 people own it and they're trading $5 back and forth. But if you see a coin that has thousands of dollars in daily volume and is in 300 wallets, now you could start saying to yourself, there's credibility to it. Like a lot of people are part of this. A lot of people own this. A lot of people are trading this, which means it is in our best interest. We're doing the calculations beforehand, so I always know what the price is going to be. Always. That's the way the system is built. And because I act in the interests of Rhino and we're all Rhino together, everyone's going to be quite excited about that. But secondly, because I always know the price, it does not matter how many wallets have it because I did the calculations beforehand, so it behooves us to get the most wallets out there. If anyone could go look up something on CoinMarketCap and it says it has 1 million wallets it's in, you think to yourself, oh my God, this coin is in 1 million different people own this. Have you noticed I didn't even mention volume at that point? I didn't even mention price. 1 million different people own this is something that you want to own. Now, is that because that's a precursor to price movement, or that's simply because if everyone's doing it, they must have, it's like when you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you notice that everyone of the other sex all of a sudden starts liking you. It's not because you look better, it's because they look at your boyfriend or girlfriend, they see that they're a good looking person, and they say, well, if that person did the work already, I know the work's been done. I could go ahead and flirt with that boy or girl too. Same exact thing. And again, everything's brought up to relationships. So tomorrow I will send out a step-by-step, like annoyingly press right? And then V and I are going to collaborate and do a full push. Everyone will have their coin by the weekend, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And by Monday, all coin will be automated going forward. We need you to have your coin. I need you. Like Rhino needs wallets to hold the coin. You would like to hold the coin that you purchased. It's a match made in heaven. That's why I love you. I'll see everyone tomorrow. Bye, guys.